Welcome to Rooted and Rising, a soulful podcast hosted by Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Join the conversation as Dr. Cheri and Ellice explore the transformative power of holistic healing from the inside out. Together, they guide listeners through the deep work of reconnecting with their roots, uncovering the unconscious wounds that shape us, and rising into the fullness of our higher selves. So please, welcome the hosts of Rooted and Rising, Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone.
Hello, welcome to Rooted and Rising. I'm Dr. Cheri, and I'm here with my co-host, Elise Boone. I was saying both of the names together. And so now if you ever want to shortcut it, it's Eileen. But with Elise Boone, and we're very excited to be here today and about our topic that we want to talk about today. If you knew you could have one profound experience that could erase years of pain, or that would you want to step into that? Today we would like to talk about the fascinating and sometimes controversial topic of psychedelic assisted medicine, journeys, and what psychedelics can maybe offer us, and what they have shown to offer. And so today we're primarily going to focus on what we talked about last time, ketamine, and how it works differently and similarly to other medicines. And the other medicine we like to talk today is psilocybin. And we're very excited about this.
Yes, this is going to be a great topic. And I think, well, Cheri and I just got to spend a few days together in person,
Yes.
which is wonderful because we're really here on two sides of the US. She's in California and I'm in Georgia. And so seeing each other in person was a real treat. I felt like last time I got to see you in California, we really were in that sort of rising cosmic energy that you bring in your home. And then you got to come here, and I felt like we had this really grounding time in the forest at my house, and really got to enjoy that rootedness here. So we almost got to reclaim the full spectrum of our podcast and who we are as humans coming together. It was really beautiful.
We really did. That was really fascinating, and you can sometimes like think things up and create a title like Rooted and Rising because you the philosophy behind it you get excited about. But when we were together and the energies and be able to experience our set different energies and how they came together and how it just accelerated our thinking, our creativity, our minds, and really what we think the world wants to hear now and what the world needs for tapping into that inner healer. And so because I feel like so much life now is about experiential growth, not just head growth, like just acquiring information, experiential. And for us to have this little experience together that was experiential, to just with our energies and how it we probably could talk and create forever. It was so wonderful. And it was an honor to be in your home. At least it was really fun, and every experience should be life altering. And I believe that was also life altering for me. So thank you, Elise.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it was a pleasure. Yeah, so we're here with Rooted and Rising, and we're sort of really, it's sinking in the depths to which that name has meaning to us, and that's really beautiful. And sort of like we're embodying it even more as we go on. Like you said, it came to us as it was more of a thought, and like, oh yeah, that hits. That's what it is. But now we're living it more and more as we deepen in this podcast, as we share, as we continue to provide our wellness retreats for women, which is beautiful, and just do this work out in the world in the ways that we do with integration with clients and with you with your ketamine and your practice with all of your patients and clients. So yes, here we are. So as you all know, we're here to talk about how to become whole, not by shedding parts of yourself, but by bringing yourself into wholeness, and how to find healing in more holistic and even alternative ways, which psychedelics is definitely alternative. It's not mainstream. It can be controversial. And so we want to just explore this topic. We'll tap into, let's kind of recap maybe what we talked about last week about ketamine, And then we can really deep dive into psilocybin or magic mushrooms, as some people can call them.
You
So,
know,
Cheri, do you want to recap? Yeah, you're good at that.
I love the ketamine work that I get to do, and I think I love it because it I'm invited into such a sacred space. Ketamine is not a classic psychedelic, and it is considered fast acting. I was just talking to another ketamine provider just this morning, and she was talking about she's had you know how she believes it is the one medicine that takes you deep fast into your inner world, and that in itself can expand your awareness of who you are, and as well as tapping that inner healer. And so but and then you it's fast acting, so for resistant depression or anxiety, you can feel when you come out, you can feel good immediately. The neuroplasticity of the brain is already rewriting, and so that is really great. The difference is that we talked about last time was that it requires 6 to 10 sessions, to get the neuroplasticity stick. And compared to traditional therapy, that's nothing. That is an investment worth investing in. Get off those medications if you can. Definitely experience the results. Have the brain rewritten. It's wonderful. But it is different than other psychedelics, and so that's why we like to compare it with some of the others, and all the psychedelics compare it. And so today, comparing it just to psilocybin may have interest. And so it's anesthesia, it's safe, it's kind of part of the medical model, which is different. And so we'll talk more about that and how that's different with the other medicines as well. And so if you'd like to hear more about it, please tap into our last podcast, because we go more in depth. But that's a little update or reminder of why we are diving into this place.
Yeah. So before we dive into the mushroom side of things, or the psilocybin and that psychedelic, and kind of just a little bit of the history of it, what it does in the body, and what some of the benefits have been seen and proven through studies, I thought it would be fun today to go into our practice um, with breathing and do a little bit more of a heightened breathing. So instead of some of the other times where we're doing something that might be more calming for the nervous system, this one is a little bit more uplifting and expansive. And I thought it would be fun in the whole theme of talking about psychedelics, because this type of breathing after longer periods of time can really bring you into an altered state. Some people claim it's like a psychedelic state. And so this will be just a gentle taste of what that might feel like to experience just a little bit of sensation in the body, perhaps more expansiveness, like in the heart space or in the mind, and just to tap into what an altered space might feel like for you in your body. Um, so let's go into our very short breath practice here. And we're keeping it short so that it doesn't feel overwhelming. But once again, as always, I ask you to find a private space where you feel comfortable. If you are seated, that works. You can also lie down for this, and I do recommend lying down personally. I think it allows you to really sink into the breath without having to consciously think about holding your body up in any way. So if you can find that private space to lie down and get comfortable, what we'll do here is I'll tell you how to do the breath first, and then I'll just guide you through it. Um, and I won't breathe with you, or else I won't be able to keep talking. But in the beginning, what helps for me is to place my hands on my tummy, or the belly here, sometimes on the heart too, so you can feel the chest expanding, but mostly focus on the belly region. So a lot of us, when we breathe in, we're doing it somewhat incorrectly. When we breathe in, we can often sort of contract our stomach muscles. But really, when you're taking air in, your stomach should be pushing out. So you're expanding your breath, you're filling your belly with breath. So you want to feel your chest and your belly both expanding on your inhale. And on your exhale, you want to take that breath and those stomach muscles and then contract to push the air out. So often we're doing that backwards. So it may take a little time to get used to that. But just start with yourself noticing how you're breathing on a deep inhale and exhale through the mouth. Notice if you can expand your belly out and then push it in on the exhale. So we're going to follow that breath. It's always going to be through the mouth, and it's going to be a continuous cycle of breath. So you're not going to pause anywhere. You're just going to go in, out, in, out, in, out. It's a form of very subtly hyperventilating that allows a lot of oxygen to get into your body and can give you a feeling of expansiveness. So try that once on your own. That's the rhythm you want to keep. So we're going to keep going with that. If you've already started your breathing, continue that in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Continue that breath. And we're going to go here for about 1 minute. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Continue. If you feel a bit lightheaded to the point where you need to stop, you can take a break. If not, just continue that breath. Know that your body is safe here. If you feel tingling sensations, that's very normal, especially in the hands and the feet. Just allow that energy to continue to shoot out through the hands and feet. Continue the in, out without pausing. Keep going here. In, out, in, out, in, out. Keep it through the mouth. Remember to push that belly out on the inhale and push it in on the exhale. And now I want to speed it up just a little bit to what you feel comfortable with. For about 30 seconds here, continue that sped up breath, no pausing. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Beautiful. Keep that going. Just a few more seconds here. And coming to a pause. And if it feels right for you, take a deep inhale through the nose and a long, slow exhale through the mouth. Allow your breath to return to normal now. Keep the eyes closed or soft focused. And just notice. Notice any subtle shifts within the body. Breathing normally, or if it feels good, to take a deeper inhale and exhale. Down regulating the nervous system a bit here and softening the breath. And taking one more moment just to notice from the top of the head, scanning down. Notice every part of the body. Allowing the breathing to return to natural if it hasn't already. And when it feels good for you, coming back into our space here. So,
Wow.
morning.
Thank
I could hear you.
you.
Thanks for joining in that breath work.
Yes, yes. It was. I feel a little tingly. I love it. I feel energized. What it did, it reminded me of to understand psilocybin, I traveled to Amsterdam and was able to participate in a certification for facilitating the medicine. So if it ever becomes legal here, I would know what's happening. And part of their training was to do the holotropic breathing, like you just shared. And we did it for an hour, so people know how long they can do it. And it was amazing experience for me. And we can talk more about that. But I feel like that's a whole other program for us to share and talk about this. So thank you for introducing this to us. It's amazing. And I think that I just thought, yes, we've got to do a whole segment on this. So
Uh-huh.
during this break, I hope everyone just take a moment and just stay in your body and stay in this experience, because even 1 minute is pretty powerful.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
so
let's take a break and we can come on back and we'll share more about this breath work and then dive into the mushrooms.
sounds wonderful.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted Rising with Dr. Cheri and my co-host Ellice Boone. And I just want to pick up where we left off after that beautiful holotropic, breath exercise. I hope you did sit and kind of calm your bodies down because, or just experience the change in your body. Like mine activated, and but I feel refreshed, and so and I still can feel it. So that's pretty amazing. We're here to talk about ketamine and a little more about psilocybin, introduce you to that topic. It's really important. There's so much science behind the ketamine. We know there's clinics that are popping up. They have what's great about ketamine. There is various forms that we can take. We can take it, sublingually, like a lozenge or under our tongue. We get to a shot, an IM shot, the infusion, through IV, and then there's even the S-ketamine survival that is nasal, and that is the one that is FDA approved. The others are considered off-label use of ketamine, as it's an anesthesia, but each of them takes you to the same place in somewhat a little different way. And what's great is the individuality of your needs. You can play into that. But with all that science aside, there's so much more to these psychedelics that I really hope that we can touch upon, and that why it's so important for Ellice and I to talk about. And that is, goes back to HIT, holistic integral therapy, the integration part, and that the ketamine, the psilocybin, they open the doorways for healing, especially, when we haven't, we know what it feels like. I think most of us knows what it feels like when we do all the work and the healing doesn't happen. That can be so frustrating. And these psychedelics can break through those barriers because we can kind of marry with the medicine. And yes, the neuroplasticity is happening, but when you do the integration work, you're directing that neuroplasticity beyond the thoughts, and experiencing a real sense of self. And how you show up in relationships, and then how you show up as a soul, body and spirit. And when we can tap into that soul part of us, my belief, my experience is the healing that we need happens. And sometimes it's a healing course that we could never think of. That's what's so fascinating about this. Sometimes we just can't think out of a box. And this kind of like whew, opens the box, and to me, a cosmic way. I think all of it has cosmic energy in it, and then can also then take us. We'll find with at least when she gets a psilocybin, can take you into the deep, deep roots of sometimes the dark night of the soul, and sometimes it's the enlightened side of the soul. And so it's so beautiful to be on both ends because you can experience that dark night of the soul and enlightened in the roots and rising into the cosmics. And but both take you to a place right where you need to go, and recognizing that inner healer, you are doing the work. It's so fascinating. The layers are so fascinating. So I would love just to kind of start dive into this psilocybin. I want to give you some time, for, at least for this, because this is a beautiful, beautiful medicine, and I'm just on pins and needles for it to become legal. So go away for it. Go with it.
Yes, I totally agree. It's been proven in so many ways and now even become more mainstream in the media. If you haven't already, I really encourage people to go ahead and watch the Netflix documentary that was based on the book How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. It's so beautiful. It explores multiple medicines, but definitely dives into psilocybin. There's quite a few actually documentaries and things coming out now about the science behind these psychedelics and what transformation and profound experiences people are having. And when you pair that with a therapeutic setting, the right set and setting, which is you'll hear a lot, um, you can have absolutely breakthrough experiences, and sometimes not even just the experience itself but the integration afterwards. You can have breakthrough experiences because, like you said, the psychedelic has opened up new neural pathways, or it's opened up these doorways internally that we may have never even thought to explore. And once it does that, the opportunities there for healing are exponentially increased. So it's a really beautiful thing. And it's not necessarily trackable. You don't know what experience you're going to get and how that's going to integrate. Um, for myself, I have had, and I'll share some of my own experiences that led me to be really intrigued by this work in a therapeutic way. Um, One experience that I had, led by a guide, was incredibly profound in the sense that I was holding what I came to realize after um, trauma, sexual trauma from abuse in my family through a bloodline, through my mother's bloodline, and it was being held in my womb space. And I can't it really explain, and I think what's hard about this is it's very hard to put words to, because when you have an experience that's profound, it's not just about, what the medicine was doing to my mind to shift it or alter things. This was an expression that was happening in my womb space that I literally saw, like black coming through my hand, this energy coming through my hand of this trauma, and I put it onto a rock, and I could see that energy pouring into the rock and out of me. And what's interesting about it is it wasn't just an experience, because afterwards things shifted in my life. This weight that I had been carrying, stomach issues, gut issues, things going on within my womb trying to get pregnant, these things dissipated after that experience happened. So whether that was my mind saying I needed to release something that was deeply stored emotion, or I physically saw actual energy pouring through my hand into something else and allowing it to release from my body, however you want to look at it, it had a profound impact on my life moving forward. And I've had many experiences like that where I would have never gone down that route and really understood the impact of what my mother's trauma and what her experience was and how that was passed on to me and how I carried that in my system. And I wouldn't have been able to necessarily release that in the way that I did during that experience. And it was absolutely the integration afterwards that helped me put all the pieces together of the ways that I was carrying it and the ways I was able to really let it go and not respond in life from that trauma I was holding. So to me, that's just one of many examples that are very personal, of how this medicine can be profoundly impactful, can lead you down a pathway you may not have explored before, and in the end, create these sort of experiences that allow you to open up to the possibility of healing and to identify where healing might even need to happen that you may have not been aware of. So yeah, that's just one share about my own personal experience. And I have so many more because I'm working with clients who have had different psychedelic experiences and helping them to integrate what that meant. What does it look like to now walk in the world as this new version of yourself? How do you pull from that experience the gems and the wisdom that you want to carry forward and then implement it in small ways in your life to create lasting change or longer term lasting transformation? So yeah, that's my start off.
I think that is really cool, and I really appreciate sharing that it's a tender story, and also, like you shared, a very powerful transformation for you. And to I could go hours talking about the layers of integration that you experienced, even to be able to tell the story like you're sharing it. And that's where the set and setting is important, and the integration is so important. We can have these experiences, and if you didn't have the integration and you just saw through a psychedelic experience, black energy going out of your hand, and you couldn't, and feel something, and that could actually exacerbate and create anxiety and panic attacks, and also be misinterpreted in really a variety of ways. And unfortunately, I've had to do maybe repair integration work with clients who went and did these medicines for recreation. These medicines, even doctors prescribing psilocybin, but ketamine, prescribe me, and let them go home and experience it on their own with no set and setting or integration, which is unfortunately create the opposite effect. So I really want to warn people, there is such purpose in what we're sharing, and it's so different, and so to and because, like, for me, with all the work with the ketamine, my own experience with the ketamine, they were, it is more cosmic for me than the psilocybin is more rooted, and dealing almost with ancestral rooted deep, even our own stuff. So it was beautiful. The cosmic kind of the ketamine kind of opens the brain with possibilities, and for me, my creative energies, like, whew, opened up. I could see, I could experience my creative being, that, and that for hope, and that for that expansion, but also for direction on how I want to live my life, was profound for me. And so and it's probably more um well, yours is pretty symbolic. So it was just a symbolic in a different way of like, I just sat with a client, and it was like colors. She goes, I can't believe how colors play into the integration, and ketamine for me is all colors too, and colors that don't exist on this earth, that but are an energy that gets infused within you, that is the creation. And so to have her share that same experience, and that they kind of their own power themselves. We just learned. We're such students in these experiences. So that was beautiful that what you shared, and I thank you for that. And I want people to, like, kind of listen and hear between the lines all the work you did to understand that. And and the healer inside you took you there. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's really important what you touched on, that people can have adverse reactions to these medicines. This is something to be treated with respect, your own research, and we're here to empower you that these things are possible. There are places throughout, and actually with psilocybin, what's really cool, let me look at my notes here, because yeah, we have places that are licensed psilocybin services, which are in Oregon, in Colorado. It's regulated as natural medicine services. And it's even decriminalized in cities like Denver, Oakland, Santa Cruz, Seattle, and Washington, D.C. So within the United States, it's becoming more and more accessible, and these laws are constantly changing. I know that there are a lot of people definitely doing work underground with this, but in the meantime, there are sources that you can go to that are reputable to access these medicines, to access this work with psilocybin. We can dive more into that. I think we have another break coming up, and I want to talk more about the structure of psilocybin and what it's doing in the body. So we'll be right back for this.
Master of words, powerful player, What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising. I'm Elise Boone, and I'm here with Dr. Cheri. Today we are diving a little bit deeper into another psychedelic medicine. Last week we spoke about ketamine. This week we're sharing more about psilocybin, which is a compound found in magic mushrooms. And what's interesting about these mushrooms is that there's over 200 varieties of these mushrooms that hold this psilocybin compound. And they're across every continent except for Antarctica, I believe, which I find beautiful because this is wild. This is wild mushrooms growing out in the world. To me, it's like a symbol of what these are meant to do, that humans are meant to kind of co-create and connect with this fungus that has so much knowledge and information. I always loved, there was one example, I can't remember which documentary it was in, but it showed the mycelium network, which is the network, the root system. Of course, I love the root system, but it grows underneath, and there's just so many miles of this mycelium network, and it actually carries information. And it can help trees, like pods of trees that are growing in certain areas. It can send messages to them about maybe pests that are coming, more nutrients that are needed for trees that are suffering. And it actually like carries the whole ecosystems on this network, and was, I believe, the inspiration for the network of the internet that we have now. So this sort of web of information and the way that mycelium works is kind of a beautiful illustration for how it works within our bodies. And that's what I think is so unique about mushrooms, is that not only do they, for instance, other mushrooms in nature will find something dead, they'll grow on it, they'll sort of compost all of the dead parts that are waste and get rid of those in a way that's really efficient. And then they'll transform the soil into something that's really rich and ready for new seeds to be planted and new life to grow. And I feel that mushrooms do that within us as well. So it can kind of get in there and uproot the stuff that no longer serves us, maybe bring it up and out, which may be a challenging experience for someone. And then it can allow that space to alchemize into this beautiful, fertile soil within us, so that then we can build and plant the seeds that we want for beautiful, lasting transformation, for the cosmic energy to come in, for that rising to happen as that seed grows into the version of us that we want to be. But also with the mycelium network being, as I just described, this incredible network with so much information, it does this also in our brains. So now science has proven, and you can look it up online, just kind of seeing a brain that is a sober brain and then a brain that is under the influence of psilocybin, and how there are so many more colors and synapses and parts of the brain that are actually connecting to one another, that on a normal everyday life, whether we're in our task mode or even in default mode network inside our brains, we are not connecting those other parts. They're just acting sort of isolated from one another. And with this medicine, they start to connect. And these new neural pathways are actually built, which is, it's like magic. Thus the word magic mushrooms. But it's just such an incredible tool. So I love just kind of getting a little geeky on the science behind what it's doing inside your brain and inside your body. Because it allows us to understand how those doorways can be opened, because your actual brain synapses are connecting to parts that they didn't connect to before, which allows more expansion, more understanding, um, and just overall more wisdom to pour in. It might bring things to the surface, and kind of magnify a situation, a topic, or a thought that we might have in our subconscious, and bring that forward into the spotlight so we can really process through what's in that script playing underneath that we're not paying attention to in normal day life. So yeah, that's just to kind of share a little bit more about it. Do you have anything to add to that, Cheri?
No, I think it's a beautiful way of explaining it. And the medicine feels like that, right? And just when we can step into um, our brain in that neuroplastic place, and we enter expecting with curiosity of discovering more of us, just like there's a book about trees, a mother tree, a tree that, and her roots go way out, and then with the mescaline, alongside of it, she's able to, the trees speak to each other. And that is that community. The mushrooms help this tree, and then that's how the trees grow and they branch, and create life and show us life, and flowers and leaves and fruits, and that doesn't just it's through these neural paths. And if we can, someone I was just um, a mentor was sharing with me that, there's reminded me that there's so much wisdom in nature. If we just how does a spider create a web, and their own design? And if we weren't like kind of scared of spiders, or didn't like spider webs when we run into them, and but if you just look at it, it's not unlike a snowflake, and that creation is not unlike probably what's going on in our brain in that neuroplasticity state, it's kind of like the natural course of healing. The world, everyday life, is what interrupts our natural growth and our healing. When we talked about EMDR, and we go to sleep and have our REM sleep, we don't get our REM sleep. We get these remnants of anxiety and depression and stress. That is blocking our neuropaths. That is what can lead us, into rigid patterns in our brain. And to be able to have this medicine when we lose function is beautiful. And so that's a great explanation, and I appreciate it. And I do hope people, yes, look it up and read about it, because there's probably endless information now.
Yeah, there really is. I think that's true to the piece that you said about how it opens things up. And I was thinking, one of my notes here was talking about sort of like the loosening of the rigidity we have within our brain structure, and how that sort of like loosening allows for trapped trauma to sort of surface. And so any shift within our brain structure, which now they're saying that it actually has the capacity, these mushrooms have the capacity to start restructuring parts of our brain, which is incredible to imagine that happening. And it talks about too, there's all these different ways that that can be expressed while on the medicine. I've had some really deep somatic releases as well, like whether that's crying, laughing, shaking is a big one, just kind of like shaking things out of the body and allowing that soma to let go of the things that were trapped inside. So it can actually sort of stimulate something inside to allow us to do that. And with the curiosity, like you talked about, to explore the things that are coming up, and just be open. Oh, look, my body is shaking. I wonder what that is. It wants to do this right now. We kind of follow that line. Often the insights will come very naturally, like, oh, wow, I'm shaking out this or I'm shaking off that. And we can just establish right in that moment what this is that's happening within us. Or it can happen later in integration where you kind of, oh, it just hit me. That's what that experience was. That's what that one hand movement was. It was my body continuing to work out a movement that was sort of stuck within me and allowing that energy, that trauma, that grief to actually release through my physical body. So very fascinating.
Very fascinating, you know, and we all have, you know, like primary modalities that we tend to use in our, you know, some people are more visual and some people, you know, are more audio oriented and some people are more kinesthetic, you know, and those kind of prominent tendencies can come through in a medicine session as well. And also when the trauma happened, if it happened during our limbic brain development, a lot of that's going to be that's the lizard brain, the first part of the brain that develops and will restore where we frozen or we fight or flees are kind of our trauma brain. You know, the rigidity, that's what trauma creates. It can be a lot of somatic stuff because as babies, we don't have cognitive development to talk and to, you know, and sometimes at first we don't know we're crying. We're just crying for self-preservation. We don't understand we even need food at first or, you know, what it's about. We kind of learn that through proper parenting. And so when the trauma happens later, it may be some people talk through their journey, you know, and then and if it's, you know, and if it's even older, then it may be the like healing the prefrontal cortex and how the executive functioning changes. But like you said, the restructuring of the brain, that is part of the healing, you know, and it's just a really beautiful way and why it just expedites the whole I think it's just going to blow up the mental health field because it is magic in its healing process.
Mhm.
All psychedelic medicines in a different way, but we're talking about psilocybin and ketamine right now, and they're I think they're miracles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, it's important to state again, you know, these need to be treated with respect, with research, with knowing there are contraindications to each thing. You need to seek out professional guidance in these realms, people that are experienced, licensed, certified. Do your research because that is important. This is putting something into your body that is a substance that's going to alter your mind. For instance, psilocybin should not be given to someone who has been previously treated with bipolar or treated for bipolar, diagnosed bipolar, other mental illnesses. This can trigger episodes in people. So you want to really, again, do the research, be cautious and conscientious about what you're taking in, and is this something that is right for you? Talk to your therapist, your psychiatrist, you know, come up with a plan if this is work you're wanting to do.
And your medical doctor, because you know, there are some health conditions that you unfortunately that can be indicative to your well-being by using these medicines. So it's imperative that you do this with the right direction and not on your own or just anyone who says they are. Really do your homework on your own. Your heart conditions, your blood pressure, other, you know, issues, and then there's health issues that it's healing for. It actually heals the body. So this is why you do in the right and under the right circumstances and not put yourself in danger like any medicine. You know, this is any medicine that we take. And a lot of times we will just follow a leader. We won't really, you know, really advocate for ourselves. And advocating for ourselves is doing our homework and making sure it's safe and um, check boxes off. So I totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no magic pill, right? We
Right.
often in society we want a quick fix. And so the fact that psychedelics have been labeled as something that's breakthrough, it's very catchy and it grabs people with that sparkly idea that all of your life's problems are going to be fixed with this one experience or these 10 ketamine sessions. But we have to keep in mind that this is about the ongoing work. This is about the integration. This is about the support system we create afterwards for ourselves. So it's just really important to remember that there is no panacea. There is no magic pill that's going to fix all of our problems. This is a you thing. How much time can you invest in yourself to then create the most whole version? I know we're going to a break again, so we'll come right back
Yes.
after this break and we'll share more.
Thank you.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted Rising with Dr. Cheri and co-host Ellice Boone. We're talking about psilocybin, and it makes it. I started reflecting, and I the psilocybin route, interest came to me really when I lost my parents. I lost both my parents in 2020, and they had great hospice care. However, it was it ended up being a traumatic experience for me because the medications to comfort them, to me, stole them from me. It knocked them out with between the morphine and the anti-anxiety, so they could comfortably breathe and expire, pass over the, pass through the to death. I didn't get to have the closure I wanted with them. I didn't feel like I could make them comfortable. I just numbed them out, knocked them out, and both my brother and I, we were able to be there together. It was a challenge. And so what's fortunate about getting certified in these medications, these medicines, part of the certification is you have your own experience. And so I chose to explore with psilocybin my unresolved grief and loss of my parents. And not only was that phenomenal, I talked about going, I feel like through the roots, like you talked about, having these conversations with, it was mostly with my father, but which surprised me, but with peace about them passing, and the next chapter for me, that was healing itself. And then the rooted, like you said, I from mine, it came from my lower abdomen, but it was like a dead tree rooted out of me, and it ended up being very somatic and even purging, and but it wasn't. People think we throw up is horrible, but it was so cleansing. And so it's hard work. It's really hard work when you go through this. And then it led me into this direction of end of life work. And I've really done a lot of research on and training on being a doula and end of life work. And when psilocybin become where illegal and where it can be legal as an option, that you don't have to be experiences that people been shared with me, because California, you can't engage this work yet, but they can be calmed down with the assistance of psilocybin without being knocked out and numbed out, and family can share some beautiful experiences of I think I call crossing the veil, and because death and life is just that's the cycle of life and death, and it's a beautiful experience. Death is a beautiful experience, and pain is what's scary, and but also it relieves pain. It does so much, and so I think that this is where we need to emphasize that there's so many things that we have yet to know what psychedelic medicine can do for us, and also what we need to recognize the responsibility with it, and that that with anything, that even like the route my parents went, I feel like there could be more responsibility in that realm, and more and this I feel like the psilocybin is going to open that way of education and preparation, and then bonding with families, just like you talked about the mescaline being, imagine what it can do for a family, what it can do for trees, and so I hope that people can see, yes, this is serious work. It's not always fun. It can be, but it's always healing and enlightening. But like, that's what life is. Every experience can be not fun. Some fun experience, not so fun, but every experience can be enlightening and learning and opportunity for growth. And so, but that's where I just wanted to throw that in. The end of life, I think, is going to really grow. This industry is going to grow in us seeing that we can honor this passage and not shut people down and be afraid of it, and be afraid of anything that we need experience in the body, even up to the end.
Oh, thank you, Cheri, for sharing that. What a beautiful, story that you came to in that time of such tenderness of losing your parents, but then feeling like you lost them even sooner than needed because of these medications that they were on, and that sort of taking away who they were to just kind of numb out the pain.
Right.
I've heard really incredible stories that go along and validate what you're saying, that this end of life work, combining psilocybin at end of life with terminal patients and people that are on hospice, can be incredibly transformative and allow them to take this next step into their end of life with grace and love, and to let go of so much fear. And that
Right.
is so incredible that that is possible for people. What a gift,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I truly hope that that work continues. I know a lot of people working hard to make this legalized in these ways, because
Yes.
that is something that is not attainable any other way that I've seen besides personal faith, that
Right.
someone can let go of that fear of dying and that fear of the pain. So thanks for sharing that personal
Yes.
story there. I think we could also go on a whole subject about end of life, and the grief around that, and how we
Yes.
honor and can walk into death. So maybe we'll talk about having a podcast on
Yes.
that.
Exactly.
Well, I know this was so juicy and so beautiful. We have so much more to say. Let's leave people with a quick journal prompt, and that is, maybe explore, when you do your journal writing this week, what did the breath practice show you about your capacity for altered states? And if you were to explore more altered states, what intention would you want to bring into that experience?
Very
So that's
good.
it for today. Until next time, stay rooted.
And keep rising.
This has been Rooted and Rising with hosts Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Through honest conversation, clinical insight, and creative reflection, Dr. Cheri and Ellice will empower you to reclaim your voice, your vitality, and your vision. This podcast is not about quick fixes. It's a return to deep knowing, gentle unraveling, and lifelong integration. Tune in each week, Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern.